In the recent months, a wave of protests and demonstrations has swept through cities across the globe, from Ouagadougou and Johannesburg to Rome and Washington, D.C. Africans and their allies in solidarity with Burkina Faso's transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Their message was clear. Africa is rising and the people are reclaiming their voice and dignity. Amid this global movement, Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni made headlines when she expressed strong support for Traoré. In a video that surfaced online, Meloni sharply criticized France's economic control over its former African colonies, particularly through the CFA franc, a currency printed and largely managed by France. She called the system a tool of modern colonization and questioned how resource-rich African nations like Burkina Faso remain impoverished while their wealth benefits others. Although Meloni's video dates back to 2019, just as you can see on the screen, its renewed circulation during this period of heightened political tension has sparked debate. Is her support for Traoré and critique of France rooted in genuine solidarity with Africa's liberation movement, or could it be a part of a broader strategy by European powers to realign their influence on the continent? Her remarks come at a time when countries like Italy are seeking to expand partnerships in Africa, particularly in areas like immigration, control, and resource access. Some analysts suggest this could be a diplomatic move to distance Italy from France's legacy in the region, while positioning itself as a new ally. However, in another development on the African continent, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has not held back in voicing his concerns. In several public appearances, including the Russia-Africa Summit in 2023, he openly questioned the effectiveness of the African Union, calling it a symbol rather than an organization. He criticized its failure to take decisive action on major issues affecting African nations, such as the ongoing conflict in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as the level of terrorism in the Sahel. Let's take a look at this video.
You will hear about the African Union. Yes, it exists. But what is the effect of the African Union in reality? We cannot talk about integration in the theme and not talk about the African Union. Because it is this organization that should unite us, create real integration. But we regret to see these wars that persist on the African continent, killing millions of young people. And that this organization, which has heads of state, with armies, is unable to organize itself to support certain countries. The Union is not just a word. The Union is a symbol. And we, the youth, should learn a lesson from this situation to unite, to make integration a reality. I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which hosts the headquarters of the African Union, was experiencing a conflict. And when I saw the Prime Minister put on a military uniform and announced the closure of the university in Addis Ababa to face the threat. I did not see any action from the African Union to protect these headquarters. Most Western states saw Addis Ababa falling, packing up and leaving. Ethiopia fought, found an internal solution, and is living more or less in peace today. The children of Congo have been dying for years. Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the forces and all the necessary strategies to support these states so they can regain peace. For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the theater of international terrorism. But we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem. Worse, a few days ago, a country foreign to Africa openly announced having supported and participated in a cowardly terrorist and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation in Tinsawartan. The African Union did not utter a word to condemn this interference by a state outside of Africa in the internal affairs of our states. I would like them to hear this and therefore break their silence and take action so that the youth can believe in the African Union.
Right there, Traoré argued that the African Union has not provided sufficient support to countries facing severe insecurity, displacement, and economic hardship. But the question is, where's the African Union when Africans are dying? His critique extended to ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, in January 2024. Burkina Faso, alongside Mali and Niger, announced their withdrawal from the bloc. The leader cited ECOWAS' lack of tangible support during their battles against terrorism and its tendency to impose harsh sanctions on member states experiencing political transitions. Now, despite these tensions, President Traoré has struck a chord with many young Africans who see him as a symbol of courage and transformation. In his speeches, he calls on African youth to rise, to unite, and reject dependency on foreign powers. He emphasizes the need for true African integration, one that allows nations to speak with a collective voice and forge their own path forward. Traoré's message is clear. For Africa to achieve lasting freedom and development, it must depend on itself, harness its own resources, and foster solidarity among its people. As African countries re-evaluate their relationship with global powers and question the relevance of long-standing regional bodies, leaders like Traoré are pushing for a shift, one that centers African priorities and the aspiration of its people. Whether this movement will lead to a lasting change remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, Africans' youth are listening and they are ready to act.